Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my channel Nnedi. Today I'm going to talk about my most anticipated releases through the end of 2017. Mostly October, November, and December, but I'm going to backtrack and talk about two books coming out in September that I missed in my previous upcoming releases video. Because I'm doing a wonderful job at failing to be detail-oriented today, I am not going to mention specific publication dates and publishers. I'll put that information in the description box down below when I can be sure that I'm getting it right. So, on to September releases. These are the two books that I missed the first time round because I hadn't heard about them yet. The first one is a surprise, but a pleasant one, and that is Jane Unlimited by Kristin Cashore. I've been a fan of Kristin Cashore since her books Fire and Graceling came out when I was a teenager. She's not a prolific author by any means. I think that this one will be her fourth book ever. So Jane Unlimited is about a young girl named Jane who is raised by her aunt. Her aunt goes missing on an expedition in Antarctica and Jane is left on her own with little direction after high school. The description says that she's making umbrellas that look like her dreams. I don't know what that means, but she meets a woman described as glamorous and capricious. And let me just say, I think we should use this word capricious more frequently. It's a beautiful adjective. This woman invites Jane to come to her family's island mansion, which is a place that Jane's aunt told her she should go to if she was ever given the chance. And then she's going to find something there. I will end there because I don't know what comes next. I am intrigued and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like it because it's Kristin Cashore. The second September release that I'm looking forward to is Autonomous by Annalee Newitz. I talked about this in more depth in a recent book haul, but basically it features a pharmaceutical pirate, an emotionally shut down military agent, and a young indentured military robot, all racing to stop a drug epidemic. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And probably commentary on who is human, who has rights, and that sort of thing. And now on to October releases. The first one is Akata Warrior by Nnedi Okorafor. This is the long-awaited sequel to Akata Witch. This series is about an American-born Nigerian girl named Sunny who has albinism. She discovers in the first book that she has magical powers and she is inducted into the Leopard Society. And in Akata Warrior, it sounds like she's a little bit older. She's studying magic still and she has to face her destiny, which sounds like it's going to be a big battle for the fate of humanity. I really enjoyed the first book. It was challenging because it was very different culturally, especially with what is expected of children and what their families and stuff are like, and I really enjoyed that. It's a good story, but also it's nice to be pushed out of my comfort zone where like middle grade and young adult fiction featuring children are concerned. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Next up is The Stone and the Skull by Elizabeth Bear. This is the first in a new series set in the same world, possibly the same time period as her Eternal Sky trilogy, and that was one fantasy series I really enjoyed, mostly because it seemed inspired by different cultures than a lot of more epic fantasy usually is. It had a very like Mongolian feel about it, like it might have been inspired by people like Genghis Khan and that way of life on the steppes and such. So I'm very eager to get back into that world. According to the description, this book is about a brass automaton created by a wizard of Messaline and the Dead Man, a bitter survivor of the bodyguard of the deposed Uthman Caliphate. They are friends of a peculiar sort, and they are walking into a dynastic war between the rulers of the shattered bits of a once great empire. That sounds fantastic. Another one on my October list is Vallista by Stephen Brust. This is the 15th book in the long-running Vlad Taltos fantasy series. It's about a human man, Vlad Taltos, who lives in an elvish empire, what they call Dragarans. He was once an assassin, kinda still is, but he's kind of on the run from the House of Jarrig, which is basically their house of assassins. I am not completely caught up with this series yet, so I'm trying to avoid some of the description of this book for fear of spoilers of the 2 or 3 books I have left to read before this 15th one. But it will be the continuing adventures of Vlad, no doubt, and it sounds like it's inching closer to answering some of the questions that both I, as the reader, and Vlad have about the world they live in. Continuing on, we have It Devours by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. This is the next Welcome to Night Vale novel, and as you may know, I really enjoy the Night Vale podcast, and I've been listening to it pretty religiously for the last 4 or 5 years. I really like it. I think that this is going to be another standalone story like the previous Night Vale novel was. This book is going to be about Nilanjana, a scientist in Night Vale who works for Carlos, he of the beautiful hair, who meets Daryl, a member of the joyous congregation of the Smiling God, and it sounds like the Smiling God is up to no good again and they have to stop that and bridge their differences, because it sounds like it's going to be like a religion versus science story in some way. Belief in the ultimate power of science versus belief in the Smiling God type of thing. The Smiling God is one of like the scariest aspects of the whole Night Vale universe, so this could be a suitably creepy-like book for October and the Halloween season. Next is Austral by Paul McAuley. I think this may be a UK only release at this point because I've only seen Gallancz listed as the publisher, and they are a UK publisher, but the description of this one sounds so interesting and possibly connected to a story that I really liked by McAuley that I might have to get it ordered from overseas. So this is the description. The great geoengineering projects have failed. The world is still warming, sea levels are still rising, and the Antarctic Peninsula is home to Earth's newest nation, with life quickened by eco-poets spreading across valleys and fjords exposed by the retreat of the ice. Austral Morales Ferrado, a child of the last generation of eco-poets, is a husky, an edited person adapted to the unforgiving climate of the far south, feared and despised by most of its population. And now, out of desperation, she has committed the kidnapping of the century. But before she can collect the ransom and make a new life elsewhere, she must find a place of safety amongst the peninsula's forests and icy plateaus and evade a criminal gang that has its own plans for the teenage girl she's taken hostage. You can probably see that I want to read this because it is climate change science fiction, and recently I have really enjoyed books that tackle the devastating consequences of climate change for future generations. The last release for my October list is Barbary Station by R.E. Stearns. I believe this is a debut science fiction novel, and I think it was Thomas who brought it to my attention. I think this was on his anticipated list for 2017, and it does sound like quite an adventure. So this is the short summary. Ada and Iridian are newly minted engineers, but in a solar system racked by economic collapse after an interplanetary war, an engineering degree isn't worth the paper it's printed on. Desperate for gainful employment, they hijack a colony ship, planning to join a pirate crew at Barbary Station, an abandoned shipbreaking station in deep space. But when they arrive at Barbary Station, nothing is as they expected. The pirates are not living in luxury, the artificial intelligence controlling the station's security system has gone mad, and it shoots down any ship that tries to leave, so there's no way out. Now, I love the idea of this world. It has a lot of promise. I love the idea of a station in deep space, pirates in space, come on, that's always cool. Less so the idea of an artificial intelligence gone mad, since I think that is quickly becoming a cliche in science fiction. However, on the whole, this sounds like a rapid-paced adventure. Now on to November. The first one on my list is Romancing the Werewolf by Gail Carriger. The one-line summary. An LGBT reunion romance featuring your favorite reluctant werewolf dandy, the return of a certain quietly efficient beta, and a very unexpected gift. So if you are like me and you ship Lyle and Biffy from the Parasol Protectorate and Custard Protocol series by Gail Carriger, this is the story you've been waiting years for. I don't think I need to say anything more than that. This will make sense to people who've read the books and want it, and probably not so much if you are not already invested in the characters. Of course, I must mention Artemis by Andy Weir. I love The Martian so much. I love the book and I love the movie. That's kind of rare. And I think there are going to be a lot of high expectations for Artemis, though I'm trying to be realistic about this one. I think it's going to be good. It's set on the moon. There's going to be crime. It's going to be great. But I have to admit, The Martian was a crazy runaway success, like a once-in-a-lifetime type of book. And I'm not going to ask Weir to try to live up to that, but I do want to get my hands on this pretty soon. And now for a conclusion to a series, Beyond the Empire by K.B. Wagers. I believe this is the third and final book in her Indron War series, which follows princess turned gunrunner turned empress Hale Bristol, who is called back to become empress of the Indronan Empire when her mother and sisters are killed in an assassination attempt, and trouble has been piling up ever since then. And this sounds like the actual war has begun now. I'm really looking forward to it. The first book was good, the second book was even better, and I'm now very attached to the characters. I love their relationships, and I really enjoy the world building, which borrows from Indian culture. It's a great influence that I haven't seen done much in science fiction before. The final one on my list for November is a big question mark. This is Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor, and I can't find pretty much anything about this book, even though I think it's coming out in November. The publisher is Hodder and Stoughton, so I think it's going to be a UK only publication at this point. That makes sense since some of Okorafor's previous books have been released in the UK before picking up a US publisher. But there's no cover art and there's no real description. The only thing I could find is a sentence that says, "Remote Control is a novel of magic and monsters, of power and privilege." And that sounds like fantasy, or it could be fantasy and science fiction because Okorafor has blended those, but mostly I don't know. I just pray this one doesn't disappear into the ether, considering so little is known about it right now and I haven't heard any major announcements for it. I have 3 more to talk about, which are from December. The first one is The Will to Battle by Ada Palmer, the 3rd book in her Terra Ignota series. My understanding is that this is going to be a quartet with 2 duologies inside of it. So the first duology is complete with Two Like the Lightning and 7 Surrenders, and The Will to Battle is the first book in the next story that makes up the quartet. The short description, which I think avoids any major spoilers, is that in a future of near instantaneous global travel and abundant provision for the needs of all, a future in which no one living can remember an actual war, war has finally come. Next, I will briefly mention Persepolis Rising by James S.A. Corey. This is the 7th book in the Expanse series, which is some really great space opera, and the television series is also really good. I can't provide a description because there isn't one yet, and I only hope that that doesn't mean the publication date will be moved. This happened with the 6th book, so I have my fingers crossed for this one. And finally, at the end of this very long list, we come to No Time to Spare by Ursula Le Guin. This is a new collection of her essays, or more accurately, blog posts, I believe, the best of her blog about aging, belief, the state of literature, and the state of the nation. And I am here for anything that Le Guin wants to talk about. If you are still here at the end of this very long list, I applaud you and thank you. If you want to read any of these books as well, please leave me a comment down below with your thoughts, and I will be back to talk to you again in my next video, and until then, bye.